welcome back to another carburetor video. This one is just a quick follow-up to the previous video that I released on adjusting the carburetors. The point of this video is more to show you a common problem with this style carburetor that you find on 2Es, 3Es, 4AFs and whatnot, and how to sort of get around that. But for the time being, I'll show you what this carburetor is up to and how we're going to fix this problem. Okay, so we have the car warmed up enough and the idle seems to be okay. It's a little touch too high, but if we just flip the throttle a little bit, it sort of settles at a different point each time, and it's as if the throttle plate's being stuck open. Okay, so with the engine running, we have this throttle here. It is not fully going back to its idle spot, it's almost jamming up. Go ahead and remove this fuel line. Remove this charcoal canister vent down the back here. I'll remove this throttle cable here. So now that the throttle is out the way, we have this coolant line that runs to the back of the carburetor here, so we can remove that. We've just got the coolant draining at the moment, so I'll do that next. So now we got that disconnected and out of the way, we just need to remove this one here, and this one here. And there's some electrical connectors behind here that we need to disconnect. Then we can undo these 4 nuts that hold it to the base of that intake manifold. Now that those are all undone, we can simply just pull this up. Okay, so here is our carburetor. You can see the bottom of it. Our primary venturi is on the right hand side without the throttle plate. I've gone ahead and removed this already. So there were 2 Phillips head screws. When you remove these, you want to have a really good quality, good tight fitting screwdriver to remove these, because they are very soft screws and very easy to strip the heads of. In my case, I've actually snapped part of the screw in the shaft, so half the screw came out okay, but the other half was preventing that throttle plate from coming out. I've had to drill down with a 3mm drill bit to get that free, so I'm going to just replace this shaft from a donor carburetor, because yeah, I could drill and tap it, but just seeing as I have parts on hand, it's just easier for me. If we focus our attention on the actual butterfly here, you can see the top of this is nice and smooth. If we flip it the other way though, you can see that's got a large step in there, and that causes it to bind up, because the radius that has been basically ground by the wall of the throttle body is going to be different to the diameter of the throttle body. So when this shuts, it's going to try and push out, and that actually causes the binding that we're experiencing right now. So finding replacements for these carburetors is exceedingly tricky. Finding a donor carburetor which has a good butterfly is also very tricky, because these cars are getting old now. So what I'm going to do is simply spin this around. I have noticed that you can buy carburetors for these cars supposedly brand new on sites such as AliExpress, but I can't really comment on the quality. I've never ran them, and I always reckon OEM is a lot better anyway. So we're just going to simply spin this around 180 degrees and put it back into the new shaft, and that should solve that issue. Okay, so here's our new shaft put into the carburetor. The old one came out pretty easily, and this one slid straight in. I've hooked all the throttle and whatnot back up. Important thing to check is that this plate is as centered as can be, so that the throttle closes all the way. If you do not have this centered, it can actually bind up and the throttle can hang as it was before. So now we'll just put these screws in and secure it all down. Okay, so here we have our screws installed, and that plate is clamped up now, so there's no chance of it moving. What I want to do is stop those screws from backing off, so I'm going to get my pliers and just give the back of the threads a little bit of a scuff, just so it has a bit of resistance unwinding. That's just cheap insurance, just to make sure that they won't unwind and fall through the engine and cause catastrophic damage. So as you can see, I've just given them a bit of a burr with the pliers, and I'm not planning on taking these screws out again. If I do, it's probably easier to change the throttle body, because this will be almost at a point where it's unserviceable. The only other thing I want to do is just blast all this out with brake cleaner and make sure there's absolutely no swarf in there before we reinstall back on the car. So before we reinstall the carburetor on the car, I quickly made up some gaskets. It's a good idea to change these, because they do get pretty old and brittle, and they can actually break when you remove the carburetor. Okay, so now that the car is all back together, we've got the engine running, got it up to operating temperature. There's no vacuum, no coolant leaks, etc. We had to adjust the dash spot. We had to also adjust the fast idle, the base idle, and the mixture screw. But now that we've done all this work, it is idling perfect, and it will always return to its set stop on the base idle screw, so there's no hanging of the throttle plate anymore. So this is all good.